For the entire talk, d will be the degree of the polynomial, and n will be the number of variables. Okay, so depth reduction says that it essentially tells us that if we can prove a low bound of n to the little omega square root e for homogeneous depth 4 circuits, so this will imply that Vp is not equal to Vn. And we should think of n being as polynomially related to each other. So this motivates this question of trying to prove low bounds for homogeneous depth 4 circuits, and we know some low bounds. So after a long line of work starting with GKKS, blah blah blah, eventually with Kayal, Limaye, Saha Srinivasan, and followed up with Shubhangi, we now know low bounds which look like n to the big omega square root e for homogeneous sum product. Okay, so this is great. All that's needed for this problem is to get this big omega to the little omega. Yeah, Ketan is already frowning about it, but right. So how easy, how hard? I don't know. I would like to believe it's doable. I mean, that makes me get up every day. Right. But there are two things here. So one potential strategy is to potentially improve this bound, this big omega to little omega. The other is to actually look at the depth reduction results and try to show that indeed we can improve depth reduction. Right. So maybe we can improve depth reduction. So Vp, maybe we can say that Vp will go to homogeneous depth 4 of size n to the little o square root. Okay, now unfortunately it turns out that this is not true, so this is not possible. So this paper says that it's not possible. We can't go from a big O to a little O. So this says that it's not possible. And Chandan outlined this in his talk during the boot camp, that we can't really hope to get an n to the little omega square root e bounds using the current measures because the size of the matrices are too small. Alright, so what can we do? So the question is, so can we prove other interesting low bounds using these techniques? In particular, can we prove low bounds for constant depth circuits? Or can we prove low bounds for, say, even homogeneous formulas? There's nothing so, like, our current state of knowledge does not rule out these kind of low bounds using the techniques that we have. Okay, so this was our primary motivation. So we want to prove low bounds of constant depth circuits or homogeneous formulas. So probably the baby case to handle is homogeneous depth 5 circuits, and that's what we do. Okay, so right, so depth 5. So this is like the first step. Over here it's a really tiny step because we don't know how to get to depth 6 and so on. There are some other motivations also why depth 5 circuits would be nice to get low bounds here. So one of the reasons is that non-homogeneous depth 3 circuits, where our best known low bounds are cubic at this point, they sort of reduce to homogeneous depth 5 circuits over certain fields. What I mean is, if we can prove strong enough low bounds here, that this will give us good low bounds for non-homogeneous depth 3 circuits. Okay, and I should mention that this reduction works over large characteristic. And this problem is interesting because of the depth reduction result that Ankit talked about, where strong enough low bounds here will let us again prove Vp does not equal Vnp. The other reason why depth 5 seems like an interesting class of circuits to study is because it doesn't seem that the depth 4 techniques immediately extend to depth 5. So maybe we'll discover new ideas on the way and that will be useful. Okay, so what do we know? So till recently the state of affairs for depth 5 circuits hasn't been really good. So over F2 we know exponential low bounds. So Razvarov-Smolensky, for example, will imply exponential low bounds for F2. This doesn't extend to any other field except F2, like no other field, not F3. So we know super linear low bound. This follows from a result of Raz. And if the depth 5 circuit is actually a formula, we'll get some low bounds from known formula low bounds of color code. So maybe quadratic. And in the last 2 years, so if we have a depth 5 circuit,
what is that superlinear now?
This is n to the 1 plus epsilon.
No, for what is the result?
What's the result? So yeah, so you get low bounds for superlinear low bounds for constant depth circuits.
Over F2?
No, over large characteristic, I think, complexes, something like that. Right. So over the last year or so, we know some results here if the bottom fan-in is bounded. So this is Neeraj and Chandan, and then a follow-up work by Chakrabarti and Bera and Chakrabarti. Probably. Okay. So let me state the theorem. So we show exponential in square root d low bound, and there's a factor depending on the field Q here.
Hello.
For a polynomial in V and T. For homogeneous depth 5 circuits over F. Can think of Q for now as constant. If it grows very slowly, the bounds still work, but we should think of Q as constant. Alright, so
What's this subscription?
also there's a factor over here which depends on Q.
Oh, how large is that?
I'll have to think. No, it's not terribly large.
It's like q bar minus q squared.
I think if Q becomes log n, then
log you get nothing.
yes.
Q bar. It's like q power minus q squared. That's the sort of constant. Oh. It's exponential.
Alright, so this is the result. It's easy to state. So I want to say something about the proof and should have enough time for that. Alright, so the first attempt would be to yeah, forget it. I'll say F3. We don't know this bound. So okay. Yeah, but
What is this about square root? Why does in all these things square root come? Can you just briefly tell me what is the root cause of square root?
but we'll see. We'll see. I'll come to that. Okay, so for me, the most natural start here would be to take a depth 5 circuit and reduce it to depth 4 and make sure that the depth 4 lower bounds kick in. The problem is that, so if you look at the bottom two layers, you are computing a product of linear forms. Right? And if this product fan-in is something like K, then if you want to expand it, so this is a product of sums, and I want to write it as a sum of products, I'll blow up the size by a lot, right? Because such a product could potentially compute all possible monomials. So there doesn't seem to be, so this trivial transformation doesn't work, and we don't know how to do this transformation efficiently.
How do you vary your polynomial in terms of
I don't know. So dq will work. D square will also work. D square will work. Yeah, I think d to the 1 plus epsilon should work with a careful analysis. Okay.
You don't know this for the IML.
No, we
It's
don't.
just gonna be the-
Okay, so we don't know how to do this reduction to depth 4, but the proof like morally proceeds via a reduction. I can't give you a clean statement saying that look, here is the reduction, but we'll see that there's something like a reduction happening. So let's call it moral reduction. Alright, so the way so it will be a proof along the lines of the proofs we have seen. So we'll define a complexity measure. Let's call it gamma. So gamma will be a function from the set of all polynomials, to say reals or something. And gamma will have this property that the following picture. So let's say this is VNP. And so these are the polynomials with small gamma. And a homogeneous depth 5 circuits of small size will lie somewhere here. So we'll show that for all homogeneous depth 5 circuits, the value of this complexity measure is small. And then we'll find a point here and show that this guy has a large measure. And that will show that this polynomial is not in this class. Okay. Yes. Somewhere. Somewhere here, but I don't know if it's inside here or it's outside. That's okay. So how do we come up with a measure? So these are two really neat observations from fairly old papers now of Grigoriev and Karpinski and Grigoriev and Rasborough. So the observation.
That's really old. What does that mean, really old?
15 years. That's old for computer science.
Really recent for you.
2001, late 90s.
90s.
One of them, yeah, I think this one is 2001.
It's 98 and one page.
Okay, yeah, it's old for me. I mean,
Yesterday.
Alright, so the observation is the following. So let's take a polynomial Q which is the product of linear forms, affine forms. And let's say that there are T of them, such that if you look at the rank of L1, L2, blah blah blah, this is equal to R. Or let's use tau for this. Okay, so this is the hypothesis, and the observation is that the probability over a random x in fq to the n, q of x is not equal to 0, is at most 1 minus 1 over q to the r. Do people see this? This is really simple. So, okay, so if you have one linear form and you are evaluating it at a random point in fq to the n, what's the probability that it evaluates to 0? It's 1 over q. So the probability that it doesn't evaluate to 0 is 1 minus 1 over q. And if you have a bunch of linear forms which are all independent, then these events are independent. So that's why you get a R over here. Is this fine? Good. So this is observation 1. The second observation is that there is a polynomial f, degree of f being less than equal to q minus 1 times r, such that for all x in fq to the n, f of x equals q of x. Okay, so I'm going to think of, so this will be a recurring theme in this talk. We have been dealing with polynomials as these formal syntactic objects, but over here we'll Also take this view that these polynomials compute a natural function over the underlying field. Okay, so if the rank of Q is at most R, so that's what I'm going to call the rank of Q, then there is a low degree polynomial, meaning degree at most Q times R, let's write Q times R, such that F and Q agree everywhere. Right? This is also true. So what does this say? So now let's look at a depth 3 circuit. And we can break it up into two parts. Right? This is the high rank stuff. And plus the low rank stuff. Right? What's high? Well, greater than R for some R, or I don't know what I'm using, the tau. And low rank is at most tau. Okay? Now, what we know from that observation 1 is that all the high rank, so if you pick a high rank gate, with a very high probability, it's the zero function. So if there are not too many high rank gates over here, and if tau is chosen appropriately, then over a big subset of the domain fq to the n, these guys just evaluate to 0. Right? On the other hand, these guys are just low degree polynomials, meaning degree at most Q times tau. So now let's look at a depth 5 circuit. So just to have a sense of what kind of parameters we are going to deal with, we are going to pick tau to be roughly square root d. In which case, if the size of this depth 3 circuit, the top fan in, if it's at most exponential in square root d with some small epsilon over there, then this observation will hold. So these are basically equal to 0. So now let's look at a depth 5 circuit. What we argued was the depth. So if we are willing to throw away a small subset E of the domain fq to the n, then we can drop all the high rank gates from here. Right? All the high rank products at this level. And in that case, the polynomial here is just a low degree polynomial. Right? And we are talking about equivalence in terms of functions now. So what this observation really says is that if the size of this circuit is small, meaning it's not larger than some x 2 to the epsilon square root d for small enough epsilon, then any polynomial which has a depth 5 circuit of this type can be approximated by a depth 4 circuit with bottom fan in Q times tau. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let's go back and think about what our goal was. We wanted to prove that a polynomial cannot be computed by a small depth 5 circuit. What we have reduced this to is the problem of showing that we can come up with a hard polynomial such that no small depth 4 circuit with bounded bottom fan in can agree with it over a big fraction of the domain. Right? So in some sense, this is this average case question, the kind we see in Boolean circuit complexity a lot. Alright, so the question now is, so can we prove average case low bounds for depth 4 circuits? And this average case is in a very, very relaxed sense. If you work out the parameters correctly, you'll see that we are just looking for agreement over 1 minus little of 1 fraction of.
So that overall result, does it give average case for depth 3?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Okay, so this is what we want. So we thought about this problem for a long time and couldn't solve it. So I don't know how to solve this question, and I think it's really interesting. Ram Prasad will talk about it in his talk tomorrow about why this problem might just be a bit trickier than what we thought initially. Question?
I didn't understand the claims themselves. So the top is just Rasborov. Then you said want to take.
Then we apply Rasbrook to each of the depth 3 circuits that are present in our depth 5 circuit. And each of these depth 3 circuits, Rasbrook tells us that can be approximated by a low degree polynomial.
Right.
So this means that if our polynomial was computed by a depth 5 circuit of not too large size, then it can be approximated by a depth 4 circuit of bounded bottom family.
And then you apply average.
Yes, and then the question is, if we can prove average case low bounds here, we'll get our depth 5 low bounds and we can all be happy.
So you don't have that.
No, we don't. So we do something else, but okay, good. So what do we do? Right. So we have these observations which are like the 1.1 version of the observation 1, which says that so that observation there can be phrased as saying that high rank gates are almost always 0. And what this observation says is that high rank gates are 0 with high multiplicity. What does this mean? So that observation says that over a large fraction of fq to the n, high rank gates will evaluate to 0. What this says is that not only will the high rank gate, the polynomial q itself evaluate to 0, many of its partial derivatives will also evaluate to 0. That's also not very hard to see. Right? The second observation is that low rank, so this is obvious, so partial derivatives of low rank gates are also low degree.
So that 1.1 is because individually each term.
Yeah, vanishes with a very high multiplicity, right? So if you just do a Chernoff and things like that. Right, and the second observation over there was, so this is 2.1. The second observation there was that if the rank is at most tau, then it agrees with the polynomial f of degree at most q times tau. And this says that, well, if the polynomial agrees with the polynomial of something of degree at most q times tau, all of its partial derivatives will agree too. Because you differentiated the same, the basis there will span everything here. Okay. So this is what helps. So now I'm going to define a complexity measure, and all right. So far we have, so when Chandan outlined these depth 4 lower bounds, so we were using this, so for every polynomial we associated to its linear space of shifted partial derivatives of the polynomial, and then we looked at this, the dimension of this space as the complexity of the polynomial. So what we are going to do here, so what Chandan outlined was, we were looking at this space as a space of formal polynomials. And clearly our observations here are not really about the formal object that we are dealing with, but it's about the evaluations of the object. So we'll have to work with evaluations. So in the first step, we'll take all the shifted partial derivatives. So kth order derivatives, and we'll shift them by degree L monomials. Right. So these will be indexed by 3 parameters: k, the order of the derivative; L, the degree of the monomials we are going to shift them by; and a set S, which is a subset of fq to the n. Okay, and in the second step, we'll look at the evaluation vectors of these guys over S. Right. So the truth table over S of each of these polynomials, and then we look at the linear span of vectors into. So this is our linear space, and we'll look at the dimension of this space. Okay, is the complexity measure sort of clear? So it's just partial derivatives, but we'll find a set S and we'll evaluate the derivatives on the set S. Okay, now it will be critical the way we choose S. We don't know how to make the proof work with other Churchill effects and so on.
So you say random choice of S doesn't work?
We don't know how to analyze it. So we'll analyze it.
Sure.
We'll analyze S for a random translation of the hypercube. Okay, good. So now there are two steps like most lower bound proofs. So we have to prove an upper bound on. So let me call this gamma K L S. And gamma looks like tau. Not sure. Let me call it phi then. So phi K L S for homogeneous depth 5 circuits. And the second step is to lower bound it for an explicit polynomial. Okay, so we have 20 minutes. So we'll see an outline of both of these steps, and this will also give us an insight into the choice of S and things like that. Okay, so let's look at step 1. So what we saw here was that there's some set E of fq to the n such that size of E is small, where the high rank gates vanish with high multiplicity.
That's not one.
No, high rank gates are 0 with high multiplicity. So we'll choose. So a natural choice of the set S for us would be the set of good points here. So fq to the n minus E. So we can look at the evaluations on this set. The high rank gates don't contribute something, low rank gates are low degree polynomials, and maybe things will work. Right, and our set S will lie here. So we don't know how to argue it for this general, this whole set. But we can argue about it when set S has some more structure. Alright, so the first thing to observe is that this is subadditive. Right, this is just linear operators and doing stuff with that. So this is subadditive. So it suffices to upper bound. If I look at a depth 5 circuit and I just look at one of these product terms and I upper bound the complexity there, that's enough. So let's say R is some product gate. So it's a product of depth 3 circuits.
Just to confirm.
Yeah.
So this E is the set for which the observational component fails, right?
Yeah, that.
Okay, yeah, that's more.
Okay, so let's look at one product of depth 3 circuits. Now we are going to take partial derivatives, so let me just write it nicely. So let's say R is equal to product over I, Pi, where each Pi is a depth 3 circuit. So when we take derivatives, and this goes to some at most D. So each Pi is a depth 3 circuit. So when we differentiate the product, we'll differentiate a bunch of terms. So we'll apply the chain rule. And the thing to observe is that, so what are we going to do? We are going to take derivatives, we are going to multiply it by monomials, and we are going to look at evaluations. Right? Now I want to claim that I can just choose to drop, so phi of KLS of R is just the same as phi of P sub k ls, I'll drop this sub index now onwards, of r prime, where what's r prime? R prime is constructed from r by just dropping all the high rank gates.
Just about that,
Yeah.
as a very simple question, there is, everything is the circuit is homogeneous.
Yes, it is.
So you take the kth order derivation,
Yeah.
derivative. So what do you mean by L, degree L monomial?
I'm going to shift everything by degree L monomials. Okay, so
So you need the multiplicity to be larger than k.
yes, so multiplicity k plus 1, we can adjust parameters so that multiplicity is at least k plus 1. So we are going to look at R, we are going to look at each of these depth 3 circuits and just drop the high rank gates. This changes the polynomial, so the polynomial R is not the same as the polynomial R prime, but their complexity is the same. Because S is chosen to be a subset of the points where the high rank gates vanish. Right, so this is now low rank stuff. Okay, good. So this was one observation. And the rest of this analysis proceeds exactly like the analysis for the upper bound on the shifted partials of a depth 4 circuit with bounded bottom fanning. Right, but if you do it naively, it's just too large. The number is just too large because we are going to look at evaluations and things don't work out. So now I'm just going to state what the set S is going to be, and then the analysis will just fall through. So we are going to choose S to look like. So I would want to choose S to be 0 1 to the n. This would just work. This would be nice. The problem is that 0 1 to the n may not lie in this set. In fact, it might be a subset of E. Right? So its intersection with E might be really large, and then we can't guarantee anything. So we'll choose S to be a random translation of 0 1 to the n. Okay, and since it's a random translation, we know that its intersection with the set E will be the same as the fraction of points in E compared to FU to the n. Right? So S intersect E over S is equal to E over E. Right. No. So we'll pick. So
Random translate works with that expectation, so
right.
there exists.
So there is one. So let's pick one. Okay. So now if we pick S to be this. So now So for the rest of this talk, let's just forget about this C over here. So this will just simplify matters. Let's assume that it was 0. So we were looking at 0 1 to that. So now observe that if we are looking at the evaluation of xi square, this is the same as the evaluation of xi, right, on 0 1 to that. So in some sense we can multilinearize everything and things will work. Does this make sense? So all I'm saying is that for all x in 0 1 to the n, and for all g, the g of x is the same as, so we look at g, we multilinearize it, and then we evaluate it at x, and they are going to be the same. So this is true, it's easy to see that this is true for 0 1 to the n. Something like this is also true for c plus 0 1 to the n, except that what this multilinearization means will just change, the definition changes. Okay, so with this definition in mind and knowing that we are going to look at evaluations, if we try to upper bound the complexity of the depth 4 circuit over here, this R prime, it will turn out to be right. I mean, we'll get good upper bounds, and the upper bounds are going to look like the upper bounds we get for homogeneous depth 4 circuits, where the measure was projected shifted partial derivatives. Remember, we are looking at shifted partial derivatives here, but the numbers come out to be the same because this operation over here, so looking at the multilinear part of G is like looking at the multilinear projections, and so things will come out to be nice. So yeah, so I haven't worked things out, but this basically completes the part where we have to upper bound the complexity of the circuit.
One thing we don't understand is why does the usual method doesn't work?
You just say it doesn't work in the evaluation. Right, because it seems that evaluations, I mean, if you evaluate over S, it's like throwing away the high number stuff.
Uh-huh.
Then you're left with low ones, which is low degree.
Right.
And then
Right,
evaluation, I mean, doesn't increase.
Right, so I'll tell you why it doesn't work, like roughly. So in the depth 4 proofs, instead of looking at multilinear projections, if we were trying to shift things by individual degree 2 monomials, then we don't know how to make the proof work. Like the upper bound on the complexity of the circuit is just too large, and we don't know how to prove that good low bounds. The same thing happens over here. So we can't multilinearize if we are looking at all of FQ to them. So we'll have to look at things up to individual degree Q, and then we don't know how to do it.
Because you need a specific measure,
Right.
I mean, for it to be compatible. you need-
Right, right. And so we tried doing that, but we couldn't prove good enough lower bounds for the polynomial for it. Okay, so I want to outline the second part now. So this completes upper bound. The second part of the proof was to lower bound the complexity of the hard polynomial that we can come up with. Now, intuitively, what's happening in all of the depth 4 proofs is that arguing these things about, say, the permanent or the determinant is tricky, but then or the iterated matrix multiplication, but then we come up with these design-based polynomials where we design the polynomial in such a way that it's explicit and they are easy to argue about. And the reason these are easy to argue about there is because the matrix we are looking at, its entries are the coefficients of the polynomial. So we exactly know what entries are going to be 0, what are going to be non-zero. But now we are going to look at evaluations of the polynomial. And it just seems like a harder thing to argue about.
For multilinear, it's the same, right?
We are going to throw away some points. If it was all of it,
E is too large, I mean, this is a larger than 1.
yeah, it's much larger than the row span of these matrices. So we throw away quite a bit. That's one part. The other part is that these guys have a lot of zeros because we are shifting by very high monomials. So L is roughly n over 2. So they contain many zeros. Okay, so let's look at the matrix that we have. So the matrix M sub F, the rows of it are indexed by shifts, comma derivatives. The columns are indexed by the set S, so which is a subset of FQ to the n, and we know that S looks like 0, 1 to the n. And the entry over here is the evaluation of this derivative at this point. Is that fine? So this is the matrix, and we want to lower bound the rank of this matrix and want to say that the rank is large. So what we are going to do is the following. So we are going to think of M sub F as C sub F times V. What's C sub F? So this is a shifted, so the rows are indexed by shifted derivatives. So this is a shifted derivative, so shifts, derivatives. And the columns are indexed by all monomials of a certain order. Right, and I just write the polynomial here. So when I take the derivative with respect to this guy and shift it, we get a certain polynomial, we look at its multilinearization because of this observation, and we just write it down over here. This is the coefficient matrix. The matrix V is just the Vandermonde matrix, essentially. Right, but evaluated over 0. So, right, so this is all monomials, all multilinear monomials of a certain degree. Degree will be something like D plus L minus K. And this is the set S. Yeah, because of this observation we can. We can multilinearize everything and the evaluations don't change. Okay, and this is the set S. So we can factorize the matrix M sub f into C sub f times V. Okay, so now can I write here? Is this visible from there? Or I can write here. So now we want to bound the rank, low bound the rank of M sub f. So this is known to be equal to, and this is not very hard to prove, it's equal to the rank of C sub f plus the rank of V minus the number of columns of C sub f. Right. And that's the direction we need. Okay, so what do we know? So from the depth 4 low bounds, we know a low bound on the rank of this matrix, almost. So I'm not going to clarify this almost, but yeah, but we almost know this. So this part is something that we knew. We knew some low bound here. V is our classical Vandermonde matrix with some errors corresponding to the points which are not in S. There aren't too many such points, so we have some bounds on the rank of V, and we know the number of columns of C sub f. So the problem here was twofold. One, so this gap, the rank of V minus the number of columns of C sub f, which is also the number of rows of V. So this gap is roughly delta times the number of columns of C. Okay, and what's delta? Where delta is the fraction of errors in 0, 1 to that. The intersection of S. Alright, so delta is E over Q2.
So V is full rank except you don't have control over those rows.
Right. So we get some loss over here. Now one of the issues was that, so the bound that we had here, so we need a bound here which lets us compare to this, right? Because the number of columns of C sub f is an upper bound here. So we needed a bound of at least something like, say, 2 delta times number of columns. And if you work out the numbers, this delta comes out to be something like 1 over 2 to the square root d. And the best low bound we had here was roughly 1 over 2 to the root d with some constant over here times the number of columns. So that was lossy and was not enough for this sort of a rank calculation to work. So we had to go and improve this low bound from whatever it was to something like quasi-polynomially large over here. So with an improved rank low bound here, this calculation will work out. Now, okay, so that might sound like a technicality. The problem is that, so these rank bounds we know for the Nissan-Wigderson polynomial, which is the polynomial in V and P for which we proved this low bound. These rank bounds we also know for the IMM. But the improvements that we have, we can only show it for the Nissan-Wigderson polynomial. We don't know how to show it for IMM. So in particular, we don't know how to make this depth 5 low bound work for IMM. Okay, so good. So this roughly completes the outline of the proof. This is all I want to say about, unless there are questions about this.
So,
Yeah.
can you say again what do you prove about the rank of C? Yeah? You prove that it's greater than or equal than this 2 delta thing?
Yeah, something like this.
Okay.
Actually, it's not 2 delta. We prove it's much larger.
Much larger, but the delta that you mean is the delta on the right?
Yes.
It's the delta that you actually
Yes.
think
It's this over here. So think of this as something like 2 to the root d. And what we prove here is 2 to the log square d.
The number of columns is like 2 p.m.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, this is fine.
So the delta you get there
So
is
the
1
delta
over 2
is in delta E over Q to the n. So it
Oh,
has to be
okay.
something.
But it's this. Yeah, if you work out, no, this is fine.
Oh, n and d will relate.
Right, right. So D is related to K and K was related to the size of E, right? Because
No, but
we wanted high rank gates to work, to vanish. That's how we defined E.
No, no, but the size
Isn't
of the
n much larger
is
than
more
d
than the
because
degree.
you have a long n, like n.
Doesn't
squared
matter, right?
values.
It's the same quantity here. The numerator remains the same. All you want is that this denominator is much smaller than this denominator.
No, no.
So this is it. Okay.
You get anything but Parma?
No, no, but
Uh,
it would make sense if that the,
No.
the degree of
What is the order of derivation?
about
field has
square
to
root
be
E.
bigger than the degree of the.
So it's not clear. For instance, it's not clear why the bound looks like 2 to the root D. We don't know of a better depth reduction to homogeneous depth 5 circuits over small fields. So we would have guessed the bound to be something like n to the root D, the same bound that holds for the 4 circuits. But we don't know how to improve this to n to the root D. We don't even know how to prove this for IMM, for instance. So this step in the analysis seems like lossy, but we don't know how to analyze this matrix better. Okay. No, it doesn't. Actually, better low bounds for NW were already known in Neeraj and Nutan, Shrikant, Chandan's paper. It's just that that analysis was over characteristic 0 and we needed the bound here to be over small characteristic. The bounds we still prove are much smaller than what they proved. They proved that the rank was polynomially away from largest possible. We prove it's polynomially away. But
This result doesn't go for characteristic 0 because you don't know how to eliminate such things.
no, we don't know. Yeah, I mean this observation, we don't know what's an analog of this observation.
Now there is something that you know.
No. No. I have thought about this pretty hard, but I think the first question to answer would be, can we do these things over depth 3 circuits? If we can, then there's a chance that we might be able to extend it to depth 5 circuits. Because those observations are really depth 3.
What do you mean the
No. Sorry, right. Right. So those things are really, they don't really depend on the degree.
Everything is
Do you
No,
have
non-homogeneous.
any information on how to pick S? So I mean, you said that you are not able to analyze this, but do you have any intuition how you could pick S so that this will improve the bound?
No. No. So I don't think it's in the choice of S that the redundancy is, because from there we basically extract all that can be extracted. It might be here. Maybe there's a better way of low bounding the rank of this matrix, which gives you better bounds. I would expect that something like 2 to the root D. So right now the bound looks like 2 to the omega root D. It could be made to look like 2 to the root D log n. I said non-homogeneous depth 3 because low bounds for depth 5 circuits will imply low bounds for non-homogeneous depth 3 over characteristics of single. So in fact, very special depth 5 will imply some product, some power, some.
depth 3 it's no.
Homogeneous depth 3 it's known, non-homogeneous depth 3 not much is known.
Oh, for characteristic 0.
Yeah.
But the block is like close to
Yeah. So it's the same law.
No, okay, so it's not just polynomial block.
No, it's not. Questions?
So for this model, you can expect to show exponentially in D, your form?
No. So n to the depth 5 circuits subsume depth 4 circuits, right? So n to the root D should be the best you should be able to show. Otherwise, we separate VP and VNP.
But you are
So we can't hope to beat that, but we can hope to get to n to the root D, I think.
So in the reduction, you don't need high computation.
What reduction?
So I mean, the depth reduction, you don't need high.
No.
Yeah.
For depth 3 reduction to depth 3, you need the characteristic to be large. For the depth 4 reduction, you need that.
This measure that you have used, if you apply it for the old result of Gregor
Yes.
Karpinski, will it give similar lower bound or will it reduce? You get only 2 power root D kind of lower bound?
I haven't done it. But it seems that from some of Chandan and Neeraj's recent papers that somehow analyzing depth-3 circuits using shifted partials is a better idea. So I would wonder if this helps in improving their bounds. But for the polynomials, they proved the bounds, it was optimal, right? 2 to the of n is what you'll get. I think for the permanent. So.
Just trying to compare the strength of these two
Ah,
lines,
right.
what they have and what you have.
Grigoriev-Karpinski is like this method with L equals 0.
Right,
I
exactly.
think in matrix multiplication you just divide it into root d blocks of d side, that is what it is.
Okay. Questions? Alright.